The police's story simply does not add up, so let's take a look at what the police themselves have had to say.
First and foremost, this is an unspeakable tragedy, and I cannot begin to imagine what Henry's family have suffered. I am deeply sorry that Henry could not be saved. I'm sorry that in the moments before he lost consciousness, he had been handcuffed and arrested. The attending officers sought to take control of a complex situation, and based on what they had been told, they placed Henry in handcuffs and told him he was under arrest. The horrendous injuries Henry suffered were internal. Sadly, nothing we could have done that night would have saved him. His wound was difficult to find and had caused a significant amount of internal bleeding.
Now, there's so much to take away from this. So when the police arrived, they just went off the information that they were given apparently and immediately placed Henry in handcuffs. But look how they used language to confuse us. His injuries were internal. Well, yeah, he'd been stabbed. They're trying to make out that the officers simply couldn't have known because the injuries were internal. It's purposefully clever wording because when we hear internal, we think, well, it's an injury you can't see. But that simply doesn't add up. He himself says nothing they could have done would have saved him. So let me ask you this. If someone's been stabbed 5 times with a huge knife and is minutes from death and nothing could be done, then surely there would have been a lot of blood. So why was Henry placed in cuffs after telling the police he'd been stabbed? It makes no sense. Now, of course, the counter argument is exactly what he states in the video, that Henry was stabbed and didn't bleed out. Well, we all know that that's next to impossible, but if that's the case, why has the body cam footage still not been released? When it was that crackhead George Floyd, we had a ton of footage within hours. So why, especially now that there's been a conviction, has the body cam footage still not been put out? It's absolute madness. A British lad, 18 years old, stabbed 5 times in the chest and the back with a 21-centimetre knife. He's on the floor, he's complaining, he's been stabbed. But hey, you know, it's not the police's fault, guys. It's not their fault that Henry was accused of racism and there was apparently no blood whatsoever. Now, the piece of shit who did this, Vikram Digwa, has been found guilty of murder. Good, but that doesn't fix what the police did on the street in Southampton. They've issued some half-assed apology, which we've all seen, and they say it's not their fault because they were misled. They say the injuries weren't survivable. Which brings me back to my point. If he was bleeding that badly, why weren't they on him straight away with the first aid? Why the handcuffs? Well, we all know why. It was either that the police officers were completely incompetent or blind or both, or this was two-tier policing to the extreme. And Henry, well, he was failed because he was white.